There comes a moment in every life when the reflection in the mirror looks unfamiliar, not because your face has changed, but because something within you has slipped out of view. You can feel it in quiet moments, in the space between tasks, in the silence of the night. You are present, but not whole. This is not just sadness. It's not just fatigue. This is the slow erosion of self. Don't lose yourself. Let me walk you through 5 truths that may help you find the way back. We all wear masks. That is not a fault. It is a fact. The world, in all its chaos and complexity, demands that we learn to navigate its shifting terrains with different personas. At work, we wear the mask of the achiever, efficient, goal-driven, always one step ahead. At home, another, perhaps softer, nurturing, patient. And then there is the mask reserved for the digital sphere, that curated illusion we present to the world. These masks are not lies. They are survival strategies. We develop them not from deceit, but from the quiet, aching need to be accepted, loved, praised, or simply left alone. But there is a moment, subtle, like a breath in winter, when the mask no longer comes off. And in that moment, we begin to forget that it is a mask at all. This forgetting is not loud. It does not come with a warning. Rather, it seeps in silently, like a fog in the early morning. You receive applause for being responsible, recognition for being agreeable, promotions for being efficient. Each reward is a subtle nod that the mask works. You tell yourself, this is who I am, and not realizing that what you really mean is, this is who they want me to be. And slowly, so slowly, you begin to lose the thread of your own voice. Imagine the self as a flame, quiet and constant. Now picture the mask as a glass dome. In the beginning, the dome protects the flame from the harsh wind of the outside world, but over time, condensation builds. The light is still there, but it's no longer seen clearly. Eventually, the flame forgets what it was ever like to dance freely in the open air. The tragedy is not in wearing the mask. It is in confusing the mask with the face beneath. This confusion does not discriminate. It touches artists and accountants alike, parents and poets, lovers and leaders. Even those who seem the most confident, the most successful, are not immune. Take, for instance, Simone Biles, an athlete whose name became synonymous with strength, perfection, and grace under pressure. At the peak of her career, in a moment of unimaginable visibility, she stepped away. Not because her body gave out, but because she understood that what she was doing no longer came from her deepest truth. She was not moving from joy, not expressing from essence. She was performing from obligation. In stepping back, she committed what the world often perceives as a transgression. She prioritized the soul over the spectacle. She removed the mask, and in doing so, she found herself again. How many of us have that courage? To say, this is no longer me. To look into the mirror and ask, not what do others see, but who am I without the expectations, without the applause, without the armor? The journey inward is terrifying. Not because we are afraid of what we will find, but because we fear what we will lose. The mask has become a second skin, and removing it feels like shedding protection, exposing vulnerability, relinquishing control. But the paradox is this: only in that nakedness can we begin to truly live. There is a child in each of us, still soft, still wondering, still full of awe, who remembers what it means to feel wholly alive. Before the world told us to sit still, to be quiet, to follow the rules, to aim for safety over passion, that child knows the face beneath the mask, and it grieves quietly every time we deny it, every time we choose the mask over the mirror. There is a great cost in continuing to live behind a facade. It is not merely exhaustion or burnout, though those surely come. It is the spiritual erosion that occurs when one's inner world no longer matches the outer expression. It is the quiet despair of waking up each day knowing you are not truly known, not by others, and more tragically, not by yourself, But what if we began to strip away these masks one layer at a time? What if we began to speak not from strategy, but from sincerity? What if we began to measure success not by applause, but by alignment? You may fear that revealing your true self will lead to rejection, loss, or failure. And perhaps in some cases it will. But what you gain in return is immeasurable. You gain the clarity of your own voice. You gain the joy that arises not from performance, but from presence. You gain the integrity that comes from no longer living in fragments. And more than anything, you gain the possibility of true connection, because no real bond can be formed through the mask. Authentic relationship, whether with others or with yourself, requires vulnerability. It requires the courage to be seen, not as the world wishes you to be, but as you truly are, imperfect, complex, radiant, real. This world does not need more masks. It does not need more polished performances or carefully curated personas. It needs more people who are willing to live from the center of their being, who are willing to risk being misunderstood in the name of being whole. People who know that the cost of hiding is too great, and that the reward of truth is freedom. To thrive, not just to exist, not just to succeed, but to thrive, you must return to that original flame. You must touch the raw edge of your own aliveness. You must take the risk to be honest in a world that often rewards pretense. Because while the mask may help you survive, it will never help you soar. And so, I ask you now, not with judgment, but with deep invitation, who are you when no one is watching? What is the face beneath the mask? Do not be afraid of what you find there. It is not weakness. It is your power. It is not emptiness. It is your beginning. The path to wholeness is not one of addition, but of subtraction. Strip away the layers. Peel back the lies, remove the mask. There, you see, you were always enough. Pain, the most misunderstood of all inner companions, is so often regarded as the enemy, something to be medicated, escaped, or ignored. We live in a culture that reveres distraction and numbs discomfort with 1,000 glittering anesthetics, scrolling, shopping, substances, self-help slogans that gloss over suffering without ever truly acknowledging its depth. But what if pain is not the saboteur we've been taught to fear? What if it is, in fact, the hidden messenger of the psyche, bearing truths that cannot be spoken any other way? We do not suffer arbitrarily. Pain does not erupt from the void without purpose. It arrives when there is a fracture in our alignment with our true nature. It is the signal fire that something essential has been forgotten or violated. Pain is the soul's outcry against the betrayal of our own becoming. In our earliest moments of life, we understand this intuitively. A child who touches a hot stove learns not to do it again, not because they are punished, but because the pain teaches them. The burn is not the enemy. It is the mechanism of learning, the visceral whisper of reality saying, "This is not safe. This is not for you." Yet as we grow older, we begin to mistrust this voice. We begin to believe that pain must be crushed or conquered, or worse, hidden from view. We are taught to view our suffering as weakness, as failure, as something to be ashamed of. But there is a more ancient wisdom that lies beneath that noise, a deeper voice that still speaks when the world grows quiet. Emotional pain, like physical pain, is a teacher. It does not emerge to torment us, but to tell us something is amiss. It is the soul's compass, always pointing toward wholeness, even as we resist it. The ache in your chest is not just anxiety, it may be grief. The fog of your mind is not just fatigue. It may be a signal that you have wandered too far from what gives your life meaning. I once knew a man who spent 15 long years in a high-paying corporate job. Every morning, as he rose to dress himself in a suit that no longer felt like his own skin, he felt a tightness in his chest. At first he dismissed it, just anxiety, he told himself, It's normal to feel a little off, but that tightness grew heavier, more persistent, more demanding. It followed him to work. It clung to him on his lunch breaks. It sat beside him in meetings like a silent, invisible stranger. And then, one day, it broke through. The pain, no longer content to whisper, finally screamed. He broke down, not in a dramatic moment of collapse, but quietly in the stillness of an early morning. A single tear, then another, and then a flood. What he realized in that moment was this: the pain had not come to destroy him. It had come to resurrect him. Beneath the anxiety was a grief so old and so profound that it had forgotten its own name. The grief of an artist buried alive under years of obligations and false identities. He had not painted in over a decade. The part of him that once created beauty had been exiled, and the pain was its only remaining voice. This is the nature of pain. It speaks for the silenced parts of ourselves. It is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is not your enemy, it is your unclaimed truth. When we numb it, deny it, or suppress it, we don't escape suffering, we merely delay it. We drive it into the unconscious, where it festers and mutates, often re-emerging in darker and more destructive forms. Addictions, depression, rage, apathy, all of these are often symptoms of unlistened pain, of stories we have refused to hear. But if you dare to turn toward your pain, to sit with it in silence, to ask it what it wants from you, you may begin to understand. You may hear a voice you have not heard in years, perhaps ever. That voice may not offer comfort at first. It may not be polite. It may shatter illusions you've clung to for safety, but it will not lie to you. It will speak only truth, and though the truth may wound, it is always in service of healing. You see, healing is not the absence of pain. Healing is the integration of pain's message. It is the return to the path you abandoned long ago, the path that belongs only to you. The man who rediscovered his art did not quit his job overnight. He did not flee into some romantic fantasy of freedom, but he began to paint again, at first in the dark hours of the morning, then more and more until the weight began to lift. The tightness did not vanish, but it softened, it transformed, because he had listened. Pain is not interested in your comfort. It is interested in your growth. It will not allow you to stay small. It will not permit you to live a lie. It will haunt you, not to punish you, but to provoke your transformation. To ignore it is to refuse the call of your own soul. When you feel that ache rising in your chest, the one you keep trying to drown in noise or bury under busyness, pause. Be still, ask yourself, what am I running from? Whose voice have I silenced? What life have I traded for this illusion of safety? You may be surprised by what you hear. You may remember a dream long abandoned, a promise made to yourself that you never fulfilled. You may uncover a wound you've tried to forget. You may meet a younger version of yourself still waiting to be heard, and in that moment you will understand that your pain has not been the enemy, it has been your guide. Your fierce, uncompromising, and necessary guide. It will not flatter you, it will not make things easy, but it will lead you back to yourself, to the core of your being, to the place where your joy lies, not the shallow joy of distraction, but the deep, abiding joy of alignment, of living a life that is yours and yours alone. So do not fear your pain, do not silence it, do not treat it as a stranger, invite it in. Ask it what it wants to show you, and then listen, really listen. Because in its voice you may finally hear the truth of your own. You were not meant to be everything for everyone, and yet, from the moment you were old enough to speak, to move, to seek, you were taught to bend, to please, to perform, to twist your essence into something digestible for those around you. Approval became a drug, and like all addictions, it numbed something vital, your connection to your own soul. It begins subtly, like the slow erosion of a shoreline, a polite yes when you mean no, a soft laugh at a cruel joke, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes, The slow, imperceptible chipping away of authenticity, moment by moment, day by day. You begin to mistake compliance for kindness, invisibility for virtue and self, erasure for love. You wear masks, many of them, and each time you shift to fit another person's mold, each time you edit your voice, your wants, your boundaries, you betray something sacred within you. Not out of malice, but out of a misplaced loyalty to a world that rewarded you more for fitting in than for showing up whole. But in this frantic scramble to be accepted, to be enough, to be admired, we are left haunted by a terrible question. Who am I, really, beneath all the roles I play? We are taught that peace is the absence of conflict, even if it means suppressing our truth. But real peace does not come from swallowing your pain to make others more comfortable. Real peace is born in the fire of self-reclamation. It is forged in the moment you stop begging the world to validate your existence and begin affirming it yourself. The data, clear and cold, only echoes what the soul already knows. Studies from the University of California confirm that those who chronically betray their own needs in favor of others are not thriving. They are surviving. They are quietly suffocating beneath the weight of smiles and small talk. Their anxiety is not a malfunction. It is a message. Their depression is not weakness. It is disconnection. Their burnout is not laziness. It is the soul's cry for reunification. Because a life spent pleasing everyone is a life abandoned. And the great tragedy is this: in seeking to be everything for everyone, you become no one, a ghost wearing flesh, present in body, absent in spirit. The great longing in you is not to be liked, it is to be known, to be seen, not through the distorted lens of others' expectations, but through the clarity of your own awakened awareness. The need to be everything for everyone is born from fear, the fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, the fear of inadequacy. But fear is a liar. It whispers that your worth is conditional, that your belonging is earned through sacrifice. But you were never meant to barter your identity for scraps of affection. Your energy is sacred. It is not infinite, and it is not meant to be siphoned off by every passing demand. It is meant to be directed intentionally, reverently, toward what nourishes your spirit and deepens your presence. Every time you say yes to something misaligned, you say no to the truth of who you are. And slowly the soul grows weary. You were not born to be a mirror for others. You were not born to simply reflect back what the world wants to see. You were born to be a light, a source, a presence that illuminates truth, not one that contorts to shadow. Your purpose is not to please. Your purpose is to radiate, to express, to create, to love deeply, not at the expense of yourself, but from the abundance of yourself. Imagine the courage it takes to stand rooted in your own truth, even as the winds of disapproval howl around you. To speak when silence is expected, to rest when production is demanded, to say no with clarity and yes with conviction. That is not selfishness, that is sovereignty, that is integrity. Some will not understand. They will call your boundaries rejection, your honesty rudeness, your detachment cruelty, but their discomfort is not your burden, their approval is not your oxygen. You do not exist to be palatable. You exist to be powerful, and power does not roar, it resonates. It does not dominate, it anchors. True power comes from alignment, from living in congruence with the quiet knowing of the soul, that inner compass that whispers, "This is right. This is you," and when you live from that place, you stop chasing belonging and start embodying it. There will be loss. There will be those who walk away when you refuse to carry what was never yours. There will be those who preferred the version of you that danced on eggshells. Let them go. Their exit makes space for those who see your light and do not flinch, those who meet your truth with reverence instead of resistance. You are not here to dilute yourself. You are here to live unapologetically, imperfectly, brilliantly whole, and wholeness does not come from being everything for everyone. It comes from being everything to yourself. From reclaiming the pieces you gave away, from unlearning the lie that love is earned through sacrifice. There is a stillness in you deeper than fear, a voice older than approval, a self that is untouched by opinion or judgment. Listen to it, trust it, become intimate with it, because the more rooted you become in that truth, the less you need the world to affirm it. You were not meant to be everything for everyone. You were meant to be something rare, something only you can be. And the world, no matter how loud its demands, needs that truth more than it needs another echo. Protect your energy, honor your boundaries, speak your truth, and above all, remember, in trying to please everyone, you become no one. But in daring to be yourself, you become free. Within each of us lies a realm seldom visited, a hidden landscape that many fear to confront, yet it is here, within this shadow, that our truest power resides. This shadow is not a foreign enemy or a curse, but a vital part of our being, containing those aspects of ourselves that we often reject or deny. It is the repository of anger, jealousy, insecurity, and fear, the emotions and impulses that society, upbringing, or even our own self-judgment have taught us to hide away, as if they were stains upon our character. Yet these so-called flaws are not stains. They are signals, powerful, raw energies trying to communicate with us. To feel jealousy is not simply to envy another's success or happiness, but to reveal a deep and unspoken longing within ourselves. That yearning points to what we truly desire but have yet to claim. Anger, too, is not merely a destructive force. It is often a guardian of pain, a mask over wounds that have never been properly acknowledged or healed. Insecurity whispers of past experiences where we were made to feel invisible or unworthy. And fear is the shadow's voice warning us to pay attention to what we have avoided or denied. Consider how these shadows shape the narrative of our lives. They are not meant to be banished or silenced, but embraced and understood. When we reject parts of ourselves, we fragment our wholeness, living divided and diminished. The path toward becoming whole lies through the courage to explore these hidden territories within us. To meet our shadow is to stand face to face with the very elements that hold the seeds of our growth and transformation. Look to the stories of those who have dared to walk this path. There is a profound example in the life of a woman who, despite the weight of depression and the overwhelming challenges of single motherhood, found in her own darkness the fertile ground for creation. From her inner struggles of grief, fear, and loneliness, she crafted a world that touched millions, a testament to the power that emerges when the shadow is not feared but integrated. This narrative offers a luminous truth. What we run from holds the key to our transformation. To shy away from the shadow is to perpetuate fragmentation, but to explore it is to awaken a power that is uniquely our own. This power is not given lightly. It requires vulnerability, honesty, and a willingness to descend into the depths of our own psyche. It asks us to look beyond the social masks and the conditioned selves we present to the world, into the raw core where fear and desire intertwine. In that darkness lies an unclaimed strength waiting to be harnessed. Anger, when acknowledged, can become a force for justice and change rather than destruction. Jealousy, when understood, reveals pathways toward passion and aspiration. Insecurity, when faced with compassion, transforms into self-awareness and humility. Fear, when met with courage, opens the doors to freedom. To embrace this shadow is not to be consumed by it, but to enter into a dialogue with it, to listen deeply to the messages it carries. It is an invitation to reclaim parts of ourselves that have been hidden away, often to survive the judgments and wounds inflicted upon us. By reclaiming these parts, we move toward an integration that brings a new kind of wholeness and vitality. The journey is not easy. It is a path fraught with discomfort and uncertainty. Yet it is through this very journey that we come to know the full spectrum of our humanity. The shadow is a mirror reflecting back the aspects of ourselves that demand attention, that require healing, that offer untapped power. To ignore this mirror is to remain fragmented, to live only in partial light while denying the richness of our inner world. But when we dare to turn toward this shadow, a transformation begins, a transformation that transcends mere survival and leads to authentic living. We begin to see ourselves not as flawed beings to be fixed, but as complex, multidimensional souls with the capacity for immense growth and creativity. The shadow, once feared, becomes a source of wisdom and strength, guiding us to live more fully and courageously. This transformation ripples outward, touching not only our personal lives, but also our relationships, communities, and the world at large. When we harness the power of our shadow, we bring into the light new perspectives, new energies, and new possibilities. We break free from the chains of shame and denial that have kept us small, and step into a space of greater authenticity and empowerment. In essence, to embrace your shadow is to honor the fullness of your humanity. It is to acknowledge the truth that within your darkest places lies the spark of your greatest power. The wounds, the fears, the desires that you have hidden away are not your enemies. They are the very gateways to your becoming. So do not fear your darkness. Do not turn away from the parts of yourself that seem broken or unsettling. Instead, meet them with courage and curiosity. In that meeting, you will discover that what you once saw as your greatest vulnerabilities are, in truth, the foundations of your deepest strength. Your shadow holds your power. It waits not for your rejection, but for your recognition. When you recognize it, embrace it, and integrate it, you unlock a transformative energy that will carry you toward a life lived in wholeness and profound truth. This is not merely a journey inward. It is a path toward liberation, creativity, and a life that resonates with the fullness of who you truly are. At the very core of the human experience lies a profound paradox. In the midst of chaos, loss, and disorientation, the soul yearns for one thing above all else, meaning. This elusive thread, invisible yet palpable, weaves through the shattered fragments of our existence, binding us back to a whole that transcends our brokenness. It is the sacred tether that draws us out of the void, back to ourselves, and ultimately to a purpose that is greater than the mere survival of the flesh. To lose meaning is to drift in a storm without compass or anchor. To reclaim it is to become once again the master of one's inner kingdom. Meaning is the ancient sanctuary within us where the restless spirit finds rest. It is the silent song that stirs beneath the surface, a call from the depths that cannot be silenced by noise, distraction, or despair. When the world around us collapses into confusion, when certainty slips away like sand through our fingers, this inner sacred ground remains untouched, waiting to be rediscovered. This is not a destination on a map but a return, a remembering of a truth long forgotten, that life, no matter how tumultuous, is always lived in relation to something larger than ourselves. This larger something might be love, creativity, service, or a purpose that commands the very essence of our being. When we align ourselves with such a cause, when our actions are animated by a devotion that transcends ego and fear, we become centered. This centeredness is not a fragile balance, but a profound integration, where our fragmented selves converge into wholeness. It is the state in which the chaos of the outer world no longer shakes the sanctuary within, because that sanctuary is built on sacred ground. And sacredness, by its very nature, is inviolable. It is a fortress of meaning that no external storm can breach. To understand the power of this sacred thread, one must look beyond theory to the lived experience of those who have faced the abyss and yet found a way to transcend it. The stories of those who have endured unimaginable suffering reveal a profound truth. Survival is not the privilege of the strongest bodies or the most fortunate circumstances, but of those whose hearts have anchored themselves in meaning. In the darkest places, places where the light of hope seems all but extinguished, there are those who carried with them an inner flame that refused to die. This flame was not fueled by power or possessions, but by a sacred promise made within, a promise to return, to create, to love, or simply to endure with purpose. It might have been the vision of a child's smile, the completion of a work of art, or the quiet hope of reunion with a beloved. Whatever form it took, it was a thread woven from the depths of the soul, a thread sacred and strong enough to hold against the tearing winds of despair. This truth challenges us to look inward and ask ourselves what it is that stirs our soul. What are the visions and dreams that wake us in the dead of night, filled with wild yearning and untamed hope? These are not random illusions or meaningless desires. They are the sacred signals of the self, whispering to us across the abyss of doubt and fear. They awaken us to our own deeper calling, to the purpose that lies waiting beneath layers of distraction and despair. We must also confront what breaks our hearts, for in this breaking lies the gateway to healing and transformation. The sacred is not untouched by pain, it is forged in it. Heartbreak is the crucible in which meaning is refined and deepened. When we allow ourselves to feel the full weight of our sorrow, we open a portal through which the soul can be reshaped and renewed. It is a paradox that only those who have been broken open can truly be whole. The pain cracks the shell and releases the light trapped within. The process of return to the sacred is, therefore, both a journey and a homecoming. It is a reclaiming of the inner landscape where meaning resides, not as something to be hunted or grasped, but as something to be remembered. For meaning is not a treasure buried in distant lands or locked away behind external achievements. It is a memory etched into the very fabric of our being, a forgotten song that the soul has known since its inception. To remember meaning is to remember who we truly are beneath the roles we play and the masks we wear. It is to awaken to the eternal presence that moves through time and space, whispering of love, purpose, and unity. This remembering transforms the way we walk through the world. We no longer live as mere fragments drifting in the currents of circumstance, but as whole beings, connected to a sacred source that animates every breath and every action. This return demands courage, for it requires us to face the shadow within the doubts, fears, and wounds that obscure our vision. Yet in facing these shadows, we find the sacred light hidden in their depths. The journey inward is not one of avoidance, but of embrace. To embrace the shadow is to embrace the full spectrum of our humanity, and in doing so, to reclaim the sacred wholeness from which meaning flows. When we live with this conscious awareness, our lives become acts of devotion. Every choice, every gesture becomes infused with the energy of something greater. We begin to see ourselves not as isolated individuals struggling alone, but as parts of a greater whole, a living tapestry woven by the sacred hand of meaning itself. This realization transforms our relationships, our work, and our very sense of existence. It is here in this sacred space that we discover the profound truth that meaning is not a prize to be won, but a gift to be received and shared. It is the heartbeat of the universe echoed within each of us, calling us to live not just for ourselves, but for the world and for generations yet unborn. It is a call to service, to love, to create, and to heal. So, as you stand at the crossroads of confusion and clarity, remember this. The sacred thread of meaning is never lost, only hidden. It calls to you from the depths of your being, inviting you back to wholeness, to a life lived with purpose and passion. Listen closely to the stirrings of your soul, the wild dreams that awaken you, and the heartache that breaks and heals. In these lies the path back to the sacred, a path that leads not only to survival but to a life luminous with meaning, centered in love, and rich with the power to transform. You are not lost. You are buried under shoulds, masks, fears, and roles you never chose. But beneath it all, you are still there. You are not a machine. You are not a product. You are not a profile to be optimized. You are a soul, and no matter how far you've wandered, you can always come home. So remember, the mask is not your face. Pain is not your enemy. You are not here to please everyone. Your shadow is not shameful. And your meaning, your sacred truth, is waiting for you. Don't lose yourself. The world needs who you really are. Thank you.